Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside Career Technical Education. I'm Ann Baldwin, and it's great to have you along with us today.
And I'm Jim Bologa, Ann's co-host, and I'm president and CEO of YTI Career Institute and Porter-Winchester Institute.
And you know what we love about this podcast is finding people with great stories about their successes when it comes to different programs at YTI Career Institute. And this is another good one, Jim. I mean, another good one.
Yeah, no, I'm actually very excited to share a little bit about Brandon.
Right.
So.
We were talking with Brandon Wiley. Brandon, first of all, thanks for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
So Brandon's got such a crazy story and such a long legacy, and we're going to talk about the culinary arts and the pastry arts at YTI Career Institute. So why don't you start by telling us how it started? How did you discover the program at YTI, and what did it look like when you attended that program?
So I first discovered the program back in 2004, 2005. I was actually trying to apply here and actually come here to the school. Some things didn't work out with the financial aid, and my parents, them being divorced, couldn't come to an agreement. So that led me into taking it upon myself. And at that time, the Iraq War was going on obviously after 9/11. So I took it upon myself to raise my hand and serve my country. And by doing so and fulfilling that contract, that allowed me to go to school and actually got paid to go to school.
So it's interesting, Brandon, that you say that because, Jim, this is a story of a lot of people, and first of all, thank you for your service. An Iraqi Freedom Army veteran, and you did, how many tours? Combat vet, and you did how many tours?
I did one tour. One tour was good enough.
One is enough for that. Exactly. But back to the fact that this is a story of so many folks that come out of the military and then have those dollars to further their education. It's such an advantage, and one of the things that you focus on at YTI.
No, absolutely. And again, Brandon, thanks very much for your service, first and foremost. And I'm glad you're back home safe as well. I think for us, providing the hands-on training, the education that we provide through our programs, I think it resonates with the veteran community. And again, whether it's culinary arts or pastry arts, like Brandon, or electrical or electronics, any other skilled trades, and even the other programs that we offer are all focused in around hands-on learning and hands-on education. And again, I think that many of the veterans, their focus in the military when they learn is generally hands-on.
Oh, it is.
So I think it really resonates for them. And it's a great way for them to use their benefits to further themselves, individually, as well as supporting their community.
So you went all in, Brandon, when you attended YTI Career Institute. You went to both the Culinary Arts restaurant program, right? You started there.
Yeah, I started in the Culinary Arts and Restaurant Management program.
And you graduated from that, and then what?
Yep. So once I graduated from the Culinary Arts and Restaurant Management program, I then was on externship at York Hospital, Wellspan. And while I was doing my externship at Wellspan, York Hospital, I reapplied and started the Baking and Pastry Arts program under Chef Susan Notter.
Very nice.
So then what did you do with that education once you fulfilled both of those programs? Then where did you take that, and how did you apply it?
So upon graduation of, like I said, of Culinary Arts, being at Wellspan, within a year, I started out as just a short order cook in the main kitchen, and then moved to an outlet kitchen. But within the year, I got promoted to Sous Chef, and I opened and developed menus for the new surgical rehab hospital out at Apple Hill, which is about a 2-minute ride from York Hospital. And I ran that kitchen for 5 years, setting up, like I said, I set that from the ground up. And that really helped my education, really helped me in the fact that it gave me the backbone to know both sides. I had one of my first employees I hired was an Italian baker from New York. And so it gave me that perspective of knowing both sides. I had all my education from YTI, from my military, and from high school to fall back on.
And that's a great point, too, that you just brought up. And again, if you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Brandon Wiley, and we'll get to the point of what Brandon is doing today, too. But with the restaurant program, the restaurant management program at YTI, that's the other piece of it. You're not just in the industry modeled kitchen, cooking and learning, but then you also have the business component. And it sounds like that business component, Brandon, also helped you further your career in regard to.
No doubt.
Yeah.
One of the most complex courses that we have inside the program of Culinary Arts and Restaurant Management is facility layout design, which also encompasses menu production and ordering. And all three of those, and that's also a professional development class. So all three of those classes compose into one project, and that's your grade for the term. And basically you are researching demographics, to putting your menu together, to pricing out your menu, to the restaurant, to how you want to set up and decor your restaurant, how you're going to lay out your kitchen. But then also it encompasses giving an interview for your project on the professional development side. And that class really paid off huge because I had the confidence to do such.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I have to say that the CARM program, the Culinary Arts and Restaurant Management program, is really a holistic approach to the business, if you will.
Right.
And the other thing that Brandon's talking about is really sort of understanding the business and the economics of it all, because again, so much of what he just said goes into how successful you are as a restaurateur. And the other thing that I really enjoy being able to participate over the years is when they do senior simulation, where the students get to work the back of the house and the front of the house.
Yeah,
and,
it's kind of like Hell's Kitchen, right?
Yeah, well, it is, and it's really another one of those experiential opportunities that students get. Where they're able to really understand what it takes to be successful, in the back of the house, and what it really takes to be successful in the front of the house,
right.
and being able to go through that with the foundational knowledge that Brandon just talked about, I think really sort of sets our students apart and sets them up for success.
It sounds like it, and you're a perfect example of that, Brandon. So you went from there, and now you are involved, still applying your degree that you got from YTI Career Institute in your current career, and you are a corrections officer. So how did that happen?
So that happened when I left Wellspan. I ended up getting into food sales. I ended up being a food broker. And then upon the disappointment of doing food service for so long, I ended up getting relieved from that duty, that job. So I fell back onto my experience with my military background and got into applying for security work. And I applied at York County Prison, and I actually applied there to be a corrections officer because I was completely done with food service, just burned out. And then a week before my graduation, I got approached about a kitchen supervisor position that nobody in the prison had wanted. And that paid huge dividends for me. When COVID hit, I had only been at York County a little over 8-9 months, maybe. And they started laying off fellow officers out of a good bit of officers, probably a good 75 officers.
Wow.
I was the only one to be retained during that process because I was in a department.
You're irreplaceable. You're one of those that we talk about on this podcast. You're an essential employee.
employee. Yep.
Right. So you talk about job security. Yeah.
Oh, and it paid huge dividends, because having been let go from one, I could have easily fell back into that whole trap and everything and had a different experience. But my food service background, it afforded me the opportunity to have that option given to me. I still had to apply. I still had to interview for it, but my resume spoke for itself.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And maybe for our viewers and listeners, Brandon, maybe you could just talk about what your job duties are as this corrections officer now, and what some of the main duties that you're doing where you're relying on your degree from YTI Career Institute.
Yeah. So, I still have direct supervision of inmates. So the whole care, custody, and control aspect of security is still in play. But on top of that, being a kitchen supervisor, I have direct supervision of the inmates. And my inmate workers that work for me, they are responsible on midnight shift. They are responsible for prep, inventory, and production. The only cooking my guys do is for the employee lounge. That we don't run tray line service, being on midnight. But so teaching them first in, first out, FIFO, which is another, serve safe sanitation principle in the food service industry.
Right.
And that's also being taught here in the program. So I still apply all those things.
Yeah, it's really cool to listen, to your story and how you are using a lot of what you learned. I mean, you parlayed your experience in the service, into corrections and security, and then you've also parlayed your YTI Career Institute education into the kitchen supervisor, and now you're taking the knowledge that you gained when you attended our school, and you're passing that on to the inmates and food prep and inventory control,
food safety.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind sharing a little story with you.
Sure.
That kind of brings everything all together.
Great.
When you work in a prison, time is everything, and they have nothing but time. So they you talk to them, you interact with them. I mean, they're human beings just like you are. And so we each get to know each other, whether you like it or you don't, So you always try to treat them as the way you would want to be treated. And coming from my food service background, and I knew this was going to be, I wanted teaching and being an instructor was my end goal from day one. I knew that was my purpose in life. And being at the prison, just 2 days ago, being in the military, I've coming from combat, I still, I have PTSD, and I still fight with my personal demons from that. But a part of my therapy in that is being a gardener, and it helps relieve all that stuff, and I can focus on being one with nature. But a part of the gardening, I had some heirloom tomatoes that I've grown, but I also do my own food production for my house. So I had my own homemade bacon that I made at the house. So I took that in, and actually me and the inmate workers on my shift, I made homemade BLTs for them.
Oh.
And something like that
goes a long
you and
way.
I take for granted, being on the outside.
Right.
For them, it takes them back to being at home, takes them back to being at the table. And I wanted to share that because the value in that is food brings us all together.
Absolutely. And, you just mentioned too, Brandon, that teaching was always your end goal. And we're not done yet with Brandon's story. So kind of the final piece of this is that you're also now an adjunct faculty member at YTI in the Culinary Arts and Pastry program. So talk a little bit about that. So not only are you working full-time, the midnight shift, but you're also giving back.
Funny, and like you said, it's really, it's funny, and it's full circle. It's, I kind of wrote off when the whole thing transpired with the fallout with the previous job. I kind of wrote off that dream because I had interviewed 3 other schools. One was my alma mater twice for high school, and got turned down. Finished second each time. So I just kind of like threw it to the sides, like it's never going to happen. And I was working my midnight shift, and was asleep during the day. And I woke up to a text message from Chef Pete Hess.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hey man, just wanted to check." So I just thought it was like "Hey, I'm just going to check on you" kind of text. Because I've always kept in contact with my instructors, whether it been from, high school to YTI. And so I thought he was just checking in, and got to reading. He goes, "Hey, I have a position open. Wanted to know if you want to work part-time." And so I really wasn't looking, and it changed everything. And the instructors that are here now, and Chef Hess being one of my former instructors, Chef Renfro, Chef Cobb, and then they've also hired and brought on Chef Michael Gingrich. And Chef Gingrich, he was my original pastry instructor back at York County School of Technology for my 4 years of high school.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Well, persistence really does pay off.
Yep.
And Brandon, I'm glad that you continue to just put one foot in front of the other. And again, I think it's a great story for our viewers and listeners to sort of experience a walk through your life and how persistence has paid off for you. And I think it's nice to see that good things are happening. And again, given all the things that you've been up against as well throughout your career, it's really it's a great story. So thanks for sharing it.
Absolutely. So we got to wrap things up, and it also shows our viewers and our listeners too that, hey, when you get knocked down or you get declined, get back up.
Right.
Because it's not failure. And look where you're at now. So it is just such a great
Amen.
story. So finally, my last question that we want to ask is, what advice do you have for people who might be watching this podcast and are considering a career in culinary? Maybe it's an adult learner. Maybe it's somebody out of high school. Maybe it's somebody coming out of the military. What's your best piece of advice?
My best piece of advice would be to never give up. Always keep your best foot forward. Keep your head up. You never know what's going to be around the next corner. None of us know fully what's down the road. But if you have that goal and you have that, that persistence, that drive, no one wants to just do a job in their life.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's always hard to get up every day when you're just working that 9-to-5 job. But if you can truly find that goal that's going to lead you to what your passion is, you never find yourself struggling to get up at the beginning of the day. And that's really what should be the end result for everybody.
Do something you
striving
love.
for what that passion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do what you love. Well, Brandon Wiley, we want to thank you so much for taking time and some sleep because, you work the overnights to join us on this podcast. And as we like to say, we never say good luck. We say continued success.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you guys very much. And thank you for what you've not only offered myself, but all the past graduates of all the programs, because it's a truly great school and it's a truly great opportunity for anybody looking to get into a field.
See, there's emotion there. I'm tearing up a little bit, but you're right. It's all about the students and it's all about where they end up in their careers. So what an inspirational story. Thanks for sharing it with us. And thank you for sharing your time on this edition of Inside Career Technical Education. We'll see you again next time.